May 2, 2011, SEAL Team 6 storms a fortified compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Their mission? Capture or eliminate Osama Bin Laden. But what they found inside was far more than they expected. Hidden messages, plans for future attacks, or insights into the man who changed the world forever. Welcome to Dark Chronicles. This is the story of what was discovered in Bin Laden's lair. On the morning of September 11, 2001, the world stood still. 4 planes, hijacked by 19 men, turned into weapons of destruction. Nearly 3,000 innocent lives were lost in the worst attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor. The mastermind behind it all? Osama Bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda. His actions sparked terror, a global manhunt that would span more than a decade and cost billions of dollars. For the United States, this wasn't just an attack. It was a declaration of war, one that demanded justice no matter the cost. But how do you find one man who seems to vanish into thin air? December 2001. Deep in the rugged mountains of Tora Bora, Afghanistan, a chilling realization strikes the CIA. Through intercepted communications and informants on the ground, they uncover the unthinkable. Osama bin Laden is hiding in a network of caves fortified by Al-Qaeda. The intelligence is clear, and so is the urgency. American and Afghan forces quickly close in, launching an intense bombardment to flush him out. Victory seems inevitable. But the terrain, harsh and unforgiving, becomes his greatest ally. Local militias hired to block his escape falter, and intelligence gaps widen. Before the final push can corner him, bin Laden slips through their grasp, crossing into Pakistan like a ghost in the night. For years, the US chases leads. Safe houses, intercepted messages, whispers from informants. But every time they get close, it's another dead end. Frustration grows, and with each failure, the shadow of bin Laden looms larger. How could the most powerful nation on Earth not find one man? For nearly a decade after Tora Bora, the hunt for Osama bin Laden turned into a frustrating game of cat and mouse. Leads came in from every corner of the globe. Safe houses in Pakistan, whispers of his presence in Iran, even a sighting in Somalia. But one by one, each lead turned cold. In 2006, intelligence pointed to a large fortified house in Pakistan. The CIA moved in, expecting a breakthrough. But when the operatives stormed the building, they found nothing. No weapons, no documents, no trace of bin Laden. Just an empty house. Every failure weighed heavily on the teams involved. For the CIA, it became a question of credibility. How could the most advanced intelligence agency in the world not find one man? And for the American public, the patience was running thin. Each passing year felt like another victory for bin Laden, who seemed to mock the efforts to capture him. As the failures piled up, frustration grew, until one analyst decided to change everything. The turning point in the hunt for Osama bin Laden wasn't a lucky break or a random tip. It was the result of years of relentless work by one CIA analyst known only as 𝐬𝐻. From the start, 𝐬𝐻 believed the key wasn't in finding bin Laden himself, but in following his trusted network. One name kept surfacing: Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, a courier who was said to be one of the few people trusted with direct communication to bin Laden. But finding him wasn't going to be easy. 𝐬𝐻 spent years piecing together fragments of intelligence, whispered names in intercepted calls, vague details from captured operatives, and even satellite images of suspected locations. Her breakthrough came from an interrogation in 2007, where a detainee mentioned seeing Abu Ahmed in Pakistan. This was the first real clue, but 𝐬𝐻 couldn't rely on that alone. She began tracking the courier indirectly, looking at the movements of his known associates, monitoring patterns in communication, and studying the flow of money within Al-Qaeda. It was a puzzle with thousands of missing pieces, but she refused to give up. In 2010, after years of surveillance, 𝐬𝐻's team intercepted a message linked to Abu Ahmed. The courier had been spotted in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The team followed his trail, observing his movements from a distance. That's when they found it. A compound unlike any they'd seen before, high walls, barbed wire, and no phone or internet connections. To 𝐬𝐻, this wasn't just a coincidence, this was it. The question was no longer if bin Laden was inside, but how to prove it. 𝐬𝐻's relentless work would lead the CIA to one of the greatest breakthroughs in the war on terror. But who exactly was she? For years, her true identity has remained a mystery. Was she a typical agent working in the shadows, or someone leading a double life, balancing personal sacrifices with one of the most dangerous missions in modern history? We'll explore that later, but first, let's dive into the compound her obsession uncovered. 2010. In the quiet city of Abbottabad, Pakistan, something unusual caught the attention of the CIA. Hidden among the modest homes and bustling streets was a compound unlike any they had seen before. High concrete walls surrounded the property topped with barbed wire. No phone lines, no internet connections. The residents burned their trash rather than leaving it out for collection. Everything about this place screamed secrecy. For months, the CIA intensified its surveillance. Drones hovered silently above the compound, capturing grainy footage of the property. Informants on the ground reported seeing a family inside, but no one seemed to leave. And then there was the figure, a man pacing in the yard, careful never to be seen too closely. Could this be him? To the agents watching, the compound felt like more than just a coincidence. But without concrete evidence, they couldn't be sure. What if they were wrong? What if this was just another dead end? The only way to find out was to keep watching, and to plan for what could be the most daring operation in CIA history. Desperate to confirm their suspicions, the CIA turned to an audacious and controversial strategy, a fake vaccination campaign. Knowing they needed hard evidence to prove bin Laden's presence in the compound, they devised a plan to collect DNA samples from the residents. Under the guise of a public health initiative, local doctors went door to door, offering hepatitis B vaccines to families in the area. The goal? Gain access to the compound and collect DNA from its inhabitants, particularly the children who might share bin Laden's genetic markers. But despite the ambitious plan, the operation faced challenges. The compound's residents were highly cautious and refused to cooperate. No usable DNA was ever collected, leaving the CIA without the hard evidence they had hoped for. Still, the campaign added to the growing pile of circumstantial evidence. Combined with months of surveillance and intelligence, it convinced the agency that this wasn't just another dead end. The stakes were too high to ignore, and the operation planning intensified. Years later, the campaign would spark outrage, with critics arguing it jeopardized global health initiatives. But at the time, the CIA was willing to take that gamble in their relentless pursuit of the world's most wanted man. Months of surveillance had built a strong case. The compound in Abbottabad was like no other, a fortress in an ordinary neighborhood. But what finally convinced the CIA to act wasn't just the suspicious structure or the movements of the courier Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. It was the behavior of one man. From time to time, drones captured a tall figure walking in the yard. He never used a phone, never left the compound, and avoided direct observation. To the agents watching, this shadowy figure matched every detail they knew about Osama bin Laden. But there was still no definitive proof. No photos, no intercepted communications, no voice recordings. The CIA was faced with a critical decision. Should they risk an operation based solely on circumstantial evidence? For months, debates raged within intelligence circles in the White House. Some argued that the risk was too high. What if it wasn't him? Others believed the opportunity was too rare to pass up. In the end, President Barack Obama made the call, "We go." With the compound in Abbottabad identified as the most likely hideout of Osama bin Laden, the United States faced a critical decision. How would they execute the operation? Several options were on the table. The first was a surgical airstrike using precision bombs. It was the simplest plan on paper: obliterate the compound from above and eliminate bin Laden. But there was a problem. How could they confirm his death without boots on the ground? And what if innocent civilians were killed in the process? The risks of collateral damage were too high. Another option was to coordinate with Pakistan's military, but that came with its own challenges. Pakistan's government was deeply intertwined with its intelligence service, and there was no guarantee that bin Laden wouldn't be tipped off before the operation could begin. Trusting an outside force with a mission of this magnitude felt like playing with fire. That left one option: a ground raid carried out by the best of the best. SEAL Team 6, the elite counterterrorism unit of the US Navy, was chosen for the job. Known for their precision, adaptability, and ability to operate in total secrecy, these men had completed some of the most dangerous missions in modern history. If anyone could pull this off, it was them. SEAL Team 6 has a huge and fascinating story. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make a video about them. May 1st, 2011, 11 p.m. At a US base in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, 2 modified Black Hawk helicopters stood ready. Inside, SEAL Team 6 was making their final preparations. They adjusted their gear in silence, each man focused on the mission ahead. There was no room for error. Their objective was clear: infiltrate the compound in Abbottabad, capture or kill Osama bin Laden, and return home. Failure meant more than just lives lost. It meant a decade of work undone. As the SEALs climbed aboard the helicopters, the weight of history rested on their shoulders. One of them later described the moment: "We knew we might not come back, but we were ready to do whatever it took." At 11:30 p.m., the helicopters lifted off into the night sky. Their mission had begun. The Black Hawks, specially modified for stealth, hugged the terrain, flying low to avoid detection by Pakistani radar. The roar of the rotors was muffled, designed to be nearly invisible to the ears of those below. The SEALs remained silent, their faces set with determination. "The calm of the night was deceptive," one of them recalled. "We knew the smallest mistake could cost us everything." As the helicopters approached the border, the tension was palpable. Every second brought them closer to their target. At 12:30 a.m., the helicopters reached the compound in Abbottabad. The SEALs were ready to execute their meticulously rehearsed plan, but as the first Black Hawk moved into position, disaster struck. The helicopter suddenly entered a vortex ring state, a rare aerodynamic phenomenon caused by high temperatures in the confined air of the compound. The rotors lost lift, and the aircraft began to spin out of control. In a split second, the pilot made a critical decision. He aimed the helicopter toward the ground, landing it hard but saving the lives of everyone on board. The crash was a setback, but the mission wasn't over. The SEALs quickly exited the downed aircraft and regrouped. The second helicopter landed safely outside the compound, and the team adjusted their plan on the fly. "We trained for the unexpected," one of the SEALs later said. "We knew we had to keep moving." 12:31 a.m. With the crash behind them, the SEALs moved quickly toward the compound's main entrance. The door was reinforced, but they came prepared. Using portable breaching charges, they placed the explosives and took cover. A dull thud echoed through the night as the door gave way, sending debris flying. For a moment the team paused, waiting for a response: gunfire, movement, anything. But the silence remained unbroken. The SEALs moved in, their night vision goggles piercing the darkness. The mission was fully underway. 12:34 a.m. Inside the compound, the SEALs advanced swiftly but methodically. On the first floor they encountered resistance, a man armed with a weapon. It was Khalid bin Laden, Osama's son. The SEALs neutralized him in seconds, their training taking over. As they cleared the rooms, they discovered something unexpected. Women and children huddled in corners, terrified. The cries of the children and the desperate pleas of the women filled the air, adding a human weight to the operation. One SEAL later described the moment: "We were trained to focus on the mission, but hearing those cries, it's something you never forget." The team secured the first floor and prepared to move upward. Every step brought them closer to their target, and the tension grew with each passing second. 12:38 a.m. The SEALs regrouped, their eyes fixed on the staircase leading to the upper floors. The third floor was their destination, where they believed Osama bin Laden was hiding. Each step was calculated, deliberate, and silent, save for the occasional creak of the wooden stairs under the weight of their gear. The dim green glow of their night vision illuminated the narrow path ahead. Every corner could hide danger, every shadow a potential threat, but the SEALs didn't hesitate. Their training had prepared them for moments like this. One step at a time they climbed, their breathing steady, their weapons ready. The tension was palpable. Above them was either the man they had spent a decade hunting, or yet another disappointment. As they neared the top, the sounds of the floor below faded, replaced by an eerie stillness. The next few seconds would decide the success or failure of the mission. 12:41 a.m. The SEALs reached the third floor. The tension was suffocating, the silence broken only by the muffled sounds of their boots against the floorboards. Weapons raised, they swept through the hallway until they reached the door of the largest bedroom. This was it. The door was pushed open, revealing a scene that would be etched into history. There he was, Osama bin Laden, standing in the room, his towering figure unmistakable. He was not alone. One of his wives stood in front of him, shielding him. Bin Laden's hands rested on her shoulders as if using her as a human barrier. The SEALs didn't hesitate. Robert O'Neill, one of the operatives, fired 2 precise shots. The bullet struck bin Laden in the head and he collapsed to the floor. A third shot followed to ensure there was no doubt. The room fell silent once again. The mission was accomplished. The team quickly confirmed the body. It was him. Geronimo, Osama bin Laden was no longer a ghost. The SEALs radioed back the code word that would reverberate across the world. For God and country, Geronimo, Geronimo, Geronimo. Bin Laden was dead. 12:45 a.m. With bin Laden neutralized, the SEALs quickly began their secondary mission, gathering as much intelligence as possible. Laptops, hard drives, and stacks of documents were collected from the compound, all containing potentially vital information about Al-Qaeda's operations. The SEALs then prepared to leave, but there was one problem: the damaged Black Hawk. It couldn't be flown out and was packed with classified technology. The solution? Destroy it. Using portable explosives, the SEALs rigged the helicopter and stepped back. A controlled detonation reduced the aircraft to smoldering debris, ensuring its secrets would remain safe. With bin Laden's body secured, the team boarded the remaining helicopters. By 1:10 a.m. they were en route back to Afghanistan, leaving behind only the echoes of their daring mission. Hours later, aboard the aircraft carrier 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐿, the SEALs turned their attention to an unusual task: disposing of bin Laden's body. The decision was made to avoid creating a shrine or rallying point for his followers. To respect Islamic burial traditions, the body was washed, wrapped in a white shroud, and weighted down with iron chains. In a solemn and swift ceremony, the body was lowered into the Arabian Sea. As the waves closed over him, the U.S. ensured that bin Laden's final resting place would remain unknown, a place no one could ever visit.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
May 1st, 2011, late evening in Washington, D.C., rumors began to spread of a major announcement from the president. At 11:35 p.m., Barack Obama stepped to the podium. His words would be remembered by millions. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden. Across the nation, spontaneous celebrations erupted. People gathered in Times Square, outside the White House, and in cities across America, waving flags and chanting. It had been nearly a decade since the September 11th attacks, and for many this moment felt like a long-awaited closure. But for others, it raised questions. What would happen to Al-Qaeda now? Was this truly the end of the fight against terrorism, or just the beginning of a new chapter? As the world celebrated, the CIA and the military prepared to comb through the treasure trove of intelligence recovered from Abbottabad, hoping to prevent future attacks. For 6 years, Osama bin Laden lived hidden in plain sight, in a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, just a kilometer from a major military base. While the world searched for him in rugged caves and remote mountains, he was quietly residing in a fortified suburban house surrounded by towering walls. Yet what the SEALs uncovered inside those walls was far from what anyone expected. The compound was filled with an unusual mix of items. The SEALs seized 5 computers, 10 hard drives, and over 100 storage devices, holding tens of thousands of files. But instead of detailed plans for future terrorist attacks, the documents revealed fragmented thoughts, including ideas like targeting Air Force One. Strangely, there were also personal items, children's drawings, toys, and even a collection of animated movies. The compound even housed farm animals like chickens and cows, painting a bizarre portrait of life inside. Bin Laden himself spent much of his time watching news coverage about him, rehearsing propaganda speeches and writing notes. His writings reflected a man deeply frustrated by the failures of Al-Qaeda's younger leaders and his diminishing influence. Some reports suggested he even contemplated renaming the organization to escape its tarnished reputation. Domestic life in the compound was no less tumultuous. Bin Laden's household included 3 wives, at least 8 children, and several grandchildren. Much of his time was spent mediating disputes between his wives. His youngest wife, Amal, was reportedly his favorite, but the sudden arrival of an older wife, 𝐼𝐻𝐵𝐻, in 2011 caused significant tension. Some believe 𝐼𝐻𝐵𝐻 was sent by Al-Qaeda to betray him and lure the Americans to his location. Whether or not this is true, her presence added another layer of chaos to his final days. What the SEALs found in Abbottabad revealed a man who was a shadow of his former self. The mastermind behind 9/11 had become a recluse, disconnected from the network he once commanded. Instead of being a strategic leader, he was living a fragmented life, consumed by paranoia and haunted by his diminishing relevance. At the heart of the operation that ended Osama bin Laden's reign was a CIA analyst known publicly as 𝐬𝐮. Her relentless pursuit of the world's most wanted man inspired the fictional character Maya in Zero Dark 30. But the real story of 𝐬𝐮 is far more complex. Recruited straight out of college, 𝐬𝐮 joined the CIA before 9/11 and quickly rose to prominence. She played a pivotal role in tracking bin Laden, focusing on his trusted courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. Her determination and years of painstaking analysis ultimately led the CIA to the Abbottabad compound. But her story wasn't without controversy. Portrayed as a hero in the movie Zero Dark 30, 𝐬𝐮's real-life counterpart, later revealed as 𝐿frida was linked to enhanced interrogation techniques, including waterboarding. Critics argued the film glamorized such practices, sparking widespread debate. 𝐬𝐮's career within the CIA was equally divisive. Known for her confrontational temperament, she was denied promotions and reportedly caused tensions among colleagues. Despite this, her work was instrumental in one of the most significant operations in U.S. history. Today, 𝐬𝐮's identity and methods remain points of contention. Was she a hero who changed history, or a symbol of the moral complexities of counterterrorism? One thing is clear: her determination played a key role in bringing the decade-long hunt for Osama bin Laden to an end. The death of Osama bin Laden was a defining moment in modern history, but its aftermath raised as many questions as it answered. The raid on Abbottabad became a lightning rod for conspiracy theories. Some claimed bin Laden had been dead for years, questioning why no photos of his body were released. Others speculated that the U.S. government staged the event for political gain. The decision to bury his body at sea added fuel to these rumors, ensuring there would be no gravesite for his followers to rally around, or for his skeptics to investigate. Culturally, the raid left an indelible mark. Films like Zero Dark 30 dramatized the hunt, stirring debates over the ethics of counterterrorism and the methods used to locate bin Laden. It sparked a wave of interest in the shadowy world of intelligence operations, turning real-life events into cinematic narratives. But as the world moved on, a larger question loomed. Did bin Laden's death signal the end of an era or the beginning of a new chapter? The leader of Al-Qaeda was gone, but terrorism had evolved, spreading to decentralized networks and lone wolf attacks. The fight against terror was far from over. For many, bin Laden's death symbolized justice for the victims of 9/11. For others, it highlighted the challenges of a never-ending war. 10 years of pursuit culminated in a single moment, but its echoes continue to shape global politics and security to this day. What do you think? Did the death of Osama bin Laden truly mark the end of an era, or did it pave the way for new challenges in the fight against terror? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history's darkest chapters, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Dark Chronicles for more stories that uncover the truth behind the headlines. Thank you for watching. Until next time.